Okay, approximately a year ago, we had an expedition that took place down in South Carolina at a hunting reservation. On that day, we were very fortunate because this area is a lowland area, very swampy, a lot of water, a lot of standing water year round. However, last summer it was a very dry summer, so we were able to access this one area where normally you can't walk into without chest waders. And so Dwight and I took off and we start walking down through the swamp. Uh, he had his dog Fendi with him, and they were to my left, and I was to the right. And as we were making distance down through the swamp, Dwight and I separated. He was about 50 yards away from me, and he kind of dropped back behind me for a little ways, and then I moved forward. I was specifically looking for footprints or any type of structures I could run across, and I happened to run across a print, and that print was the first one that I had found down in South Carolina, and I was extremely excited about it. So what I did was I took some red flagging tape and I flagged a tree with it. It was still earlier in the afternoon, and I wanted to keep moving forward to see if I could find more prints or more evidence, hopefully a squatch or a dog man or something along those lines, some type of creature. And I kept pressing forward, and then Dwight, I could kind of hear him every once in a while. We'd let out a little whoop to each other just to let each other know our general location. And I had taken my audio recorder and placed it on a stump about halfway into my walk, hoping to catch something on the audio recorder. And so I leave my audio recorder on a stump and I keep pressing forward deeper in the woods, and I'm going deeper and I'm going deeper. I guess I was walking for what felt like a good solid 30, 45 minutes. And I had basically gotten to the point of where I was a long way from base camp. I knew that. And at that point, I hadn't heard Dwight in 30 minutes. There was no interaction with me and him. Come to find out, he and Fendi at that point had turned around and started going back to base camp. So I get to the end of my walk, and I'm feeling solid about the footprint that I've already captured. I've got it flagged. All I've got to do is retract my steps back to it, pick my audio recorder up if I don't get something, and then go check my track. So I'm at the end of my walk, and this was when I first started researching, and I was in an environment by myself. Well, I had seen all these other people, all these other researchers. They were doing the whoops, they were doing the calls, and I thought I'd give it a try. I figured, what the hey, I'm by myself. There's nobody around. I can make a complete fool out of myself. So I picked a branch up that was broken on the ground, and it was about a good 3 inches in diameter. Uh, Mind you, it was completely soaked. It was not a dry stick. And so I grabbed the stick and I hit the tree with it, and it made just a thud. Nothing loud. The sound didn't really carry. I wasn't happy with it. So I was like, screw that. I'll give it another go. So I took the tree limb this time, and I mean, I hauled off and swung it as hard as I could to try to get a noise out of it. And I got a great noise out of that one. So I'm standing there and I'm happy with that result. And I'm like, okay, waiting on a reply, waiting on possibly another wood knock. I hear absolutely nothing. Nothing's dead quiet in the swamp. And mind you, I'm still standing there in this location, and my feet are maybe 2 inches in the mud. That's what I was standing in. So walking through the swamp made no noise. It was just silence. It was easy to navigate, very quiet. So as I'm standing there still beside the tree that I just did the 2 wood knocks on, what I did next was I said, I'm gonna let out a yell. And I gave one of the kind of a reserved woo, and stood there for a moment, had nothing to reply back, and I was like, oh, come on, I've gone this far, I've done tree knocks, I've done a yell, I'm going to do another yell. So that's when I let out the best yell I could, the loudest, most vocalization that I could throw out. So I do that, and I'm like, rah! And nothing happens. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll just turn around and go back. That's the end of this. Just as I was about to turn around and retrace my footprints out of there, that's when I got screamed at. The scream came from the left-hand side of me, and the tree was directly still to my left. And when it screamed, I completely froze. I mean, I just completely tensed up. My body was just tight. My eyes went, I shut my eyes, and I was just standing there. And I'm like, oh my God, what was that? Because I've heard Dwight call, and I've heard Dwight do hollers in the past. And this was not anywhere even remotely close to what a human could let out. Matter of fact, Bob, our other investigator in Sasquatch Recon, he probably lets out the loudest yell that I'd heard, and this tripled what he could do. So once I heard it and the shock set in, I was just like, oh hell, this is not from the guys. This is from a creature, an animal, a being, a something. There's something out here. And it just completely floored me. So I opened my eyes up, and I'm just looking straight out ahead of me, and this tree is still to my left. And I just said to myself, okay, Chris, now's your time to prove to these guys that you're not scared, you're not a fraidy cat, you're not going to be talked about if you don't move forward on this sound. And that's what I did. I told myself, I said, okay, I'm going to take 2 more steps and see if I can see what it is that made that sound that scared me so badly. And I had a firearm on me at the side. And I remember doing this. I put my hand on my firearm, and I said, okay, I'm gonna see what's out there. And I took 2 steps forward. And as I took 2 steps forward, that's when I told myself, there's no way I'm making another step towards this thing. There's no way. All I wanted to do is get back to base camp. And I turned around and did a 360 in the mud right there and started stepping back in my footprints that I had made, because I could vividly see them, and I was looking down because one of our fellow researchers, Tim Dills, I had asked him in the past, I said, man, when you saw your first Bigfoot, I said, what advice would you give someone? And Tim told me to drop your head, don't make eye contact, look at the direction you're wanting to travel into, and don't take your eyes off of it, and just walk slowly out of the woods. And that's exactly what I did. And what I feel like happened was I was so deep in the woods by myself alone that when I did the 2 tree knocks, that got its attention. And then when I did the yell with no reply back, that after I did that second yell, apparently I upset it, and it screamed at me with such a vibrating scream that it vibrated my chest, and the hairs on my arms and my neck stood up, and I was just goosebumped from head to toe. I've told this story a couple of times, and a couple of people that I told it to said, you possibly were zapped. Well, I didn't know what zapped was. I knew I was shocked. I knew that I was scared. And I knew that I was being honest with myself by wanting to get the hell out of there in one piece. Because whatever creature this vocalization came out of, it had to have volume, it had to be big, and it had to have one heck of a set of lungs on it to get that type of velocity to come through the woods or the swamp. And yeah, I was basically scared shitless. And so from that point, I just started walking back. And as I was walking back, I walked back over and I found my audio recorder where I'd left it. I grabbed it. Then I kept walking, and I walked to the spot where I found the footprint because my flagging tape. So I knew exactly where it was at. And I'm like, okay, I'm going back to base camp now. I'm going to get the guys. We're going to come back out here and we're going to cast this. And as I was walking, it probably was another 45-minute walk because I was moving slow. And I was completely exhausted. When I came out on the long road back to our base camp, I came out maybe 600-700 yards up the road from where I had entered because I knew basically my direction. So I wasn't staring at my footprints. I was more concerned with just getting back. That's all I really wanted to do at that point, was just get back. In the meantime, I had composed myself to where I wasn't going to just come walking up to the guys and waving my arms and going, guys, you're not going to believe what happened. You have no idea what happened to me or anything like that. I just said, I'm going to tell them what happened, and I'm just going to try to take it nice and cool. And as soon as I walked back up to base camp, Bob and Dwight asked me, they said, how did your walk go? And I said, well, I think it went really good. I said, I think I found a legitimate footprint. And that's when Bob said, well, did you hear that scream or that yell? And I said, oh yeah, I heard it. I said, it was like 30, 40 yards from me when I heard it. We caught the audio pretty good on my audio recorder, even though my audio recorder was probably a quarter mile. I'm going to guess a quarter mile from where I ended up at and it got screamed at. But from where base camp was to where it screamed at me was comfortably 3/4 of a mile. I would say comfortably. And that's when Bob said, yeah, he said, I heard it all the way back here. So if that tells you anything, this was a very, very loud, very, very dominating sound that came out of the forest. I never got to see it. And Bob and I came back down a few months ago to the exact same location, and we tried to recreate our steps to go back out there, and unfortunately we couldn't do so because the water level was so high. It was knee high in places, and we didn't bring chest waders with us. We weren't anticipating that much water level to be there. We had muck boots on and that type of thing, but we were specifically going out there, or at least I was specifically going to retrace my tracks and then hopefully see some more activity or see if there's anything else going on out there, but the swamp had turned back into the swamp. But that was the scariest that I've ever been in my entire life, and I've had some scary instances, but this time was it was beyond scary for me, and that's my story on that.